Welcome back to Booster Therapy, your cure for that pack cracking addiction. We are here with a Commander deck tech. In a new part of our channel, we are actually going to start calling this segment Commanding Presence. And the idea is I'm going to go through different Commander decks, different strategies, sharing the tips and tricks that I have for Commander and deck building. So Commanding Presence is the name of this segment. The first way we're going to start it off is real simple. It's just going to be with a deck tech, and if you know my sorting strategy, this tells you what is inside the deck. It means it's 5 colors and it's fun. This deck tech that we're going to go over today is Morophon the Boundless, and the tribal we're going to work with is Morophon Gods. So this is a Gods deck, and we have my general process of deck review, but before I dive into it, if you're looking to support us, if you want to see more Commanding Presence, please let us know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the video if it's something you do enjoy, and we love to hear from you. So any feedback that you have would be great. Anything that you want to share with us, we always love it. Also, make sure you ring the bell to, help us. Help us. All right, so the first thing we're going to go over is the ramp package for this deck. It's a 5-color deck, so the ramp package is going to be a little bit more robust, and we're trying to flex a lot of different colors and get a lot of our dual lands into play. The first thing we have is Darksteel Ingot. It's a very affordable, mana-fixing ramp spell. It's indestructible, too, and it runs the theme of the gods. A lot of these gods are indestructible or really hard to kill, and this just felt like a very fitting ramp spell. The next one is the Bloom Tender. Bloom Tender was just reprinted too, so the price is actually pretty low on this in comparison to what it was. But Bloom Tender, when you're playing a 5-color deck, can tap and add one of each of those if you have those permanents on the boards. And we know with gods, a lot of them, like I said, are hard to remove, mostly indestructible. Soul Ring, because every deck that's Commander should have a Soul Ring. Well, typically, not every deck. There are some that I would probably agree shouldn't. Altar of the Pantheon. I love this because we have gods. We're going to be tapping this, and we're going to be gaining life with it. It also is complete mana fixer, so it gives us one of every color. It can give us one of any color. Hour of Promise. Not for the zombies or the deserts. It's just a great spell that gets us 2 of any land, so we can get our most valuable lands in the moment to do a very clean fix. The Feyburrow Elder. It's just basically like working with our Bloom Tender, but a little bit more expensive on the mana cost, but a similar concept. The Arcane Signet, because it will be able to tap for one of any color. Kodama's Reach, because it's one of those just standard ramp spells, a very strong ramp spell. Sky Shroud Claim, it lets us get forests, and what's unique about this, it lets us get things like Overgrown Tomb, or getting anything that has a forest in the name. It doesn't just have to be a basic forest, and they don't even come into play tapped, so it costs 4 to get 2 that you can use right away. Smothering Tithe, because man, in my opinion, if you're playing white, you should play a Smothering Tithe. It is one of the best ramp spells out there, creating tons of treasures. And then Pier's Whim, another one that gets you any land, so command tower or whatever is necessary in the moment, this is going to get it for us. The other thing that's nice about this is you can pick friend or foe. So if you're trying to make a deal, you can pick a friend and help somebody else who's struggling with their mana base, or you can pick foe for everybody, and not only will this double as ramping you, but it'll also destroy an enchantment or artifact, or force your opponents to sacrifice an enchantment or artifact that they control. So it can also kind of de-ramp them, because a lot of those artifacts that you see early on are going to be mana ramp. The next is going to be a big part of this deck is of course, the gods. And boy, are there a lot of gods. And not quite there, not quite there. There we go. The gods. It was in order. There was just so many. So let's go through the gods in this deck. The first one we have is Kefnet the Mindful. 5/5 flying, indestructible. Hopefully you've got 7 or more cards in your hand, but he can help you draw 2, which I always love. The other Kefnet, you're going to see that as a theme. I'm going to show you both gods in line. So God Eternal Kefnet can double our instant and sorcery spells when we reveal them from the top of our library. It's especially impactful if we're getting ramp spells out there, helping us to cast it a couple times. Ronus the Indomitable, another indestructible creature, and it's rare that we don't have a creature with power 4 or greater outside of himself. I also love that he can give a lot of our gods trample. God Eternal Ronus, So Ronus in his eternal form, doubling the power and giving vigilance to all of our creatures when he ETBs, and just another nasty guy that's hard to kill. Bantu the Glorified, menace indestructible, can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn, so we're not going to get to attack or block with him a lot. But sacrificing another creature to scry one and making your opponents lose life is going to be important. The other Bantu, sacrificing to draw, get to sacrifice a bunch of cards, and he's not limited in the attack phase, so he can just kind of beat in. Oketra the True, double strike, indestructible, and it creates our tokens. And this is one of those ways that we can create tokens that we sacrifice to Bantu, to draw cards, to lose life or make your opponents lose life, and to attack. Oketra, the God Eternal Oketra, is another way to create a zombie for every creature spell we cast. And remember, even those legendary enchantment gods, they are creatures when they are casted, so they do trigger off of this, even though they enter as a non-creature unless you have the devotion. Hazaret the Fervent, it's another way to get outlet to do damage to your opponents if we're not needing any cards in our hands. It's also indestructible, which is, just great. Ilharg the Raised Boar lets us spit a creature out tapped and attacking, and then return it to our hand at the beginning of the next end step. Be careful with this one. When you spit out a god that's a legendary enchantment, if it hits the battlefield and it doesn't have the devotion, it stops being a god or a creature. This Scorpion God, and then we'll go to our gods from Amonkhet. Whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter dies, draw a card, and it lets us put those -1/-1 counters on creatures. It's also a 6/5 for 5. The Scarab God, one of the most powerful gods out there. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life, and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you can control. The best part about this is you can exile a creature card from a graveyard, so it doesn't have to be your own to create a token that's a 4/4 black zombie. The Locust God helps us spit out a bunch more tokens again that we can sacrifice to Bantu and a few other ways to get value out of it, so he's kind of our value engine. Phoenix, God of Deception. That's right, we got a lot of the gods from the secret layer in this one, or really all of them. As long as your devotion to blue and black is less than 7, it's not a creature. But creatures we have tap. Target player puts the top X cards of their library into their graveyard, where X is their toughness. Mogus, making our opponents sacrifice creatures or take damage every turn. I do love Mogus. He is one of my favorite gods. Farika, God of Affliction, lets us give tokens to people that we exile creatures from their graveyard, and those tokens have Death Touch. So another politically driven card. We can help our friends out or help build our armies against the archenemy if we have somebody who's really just ran away with it. Karametra, God of Harvest. You will be shocked at how often this triggers. Again, it doesn't have to be a basic Forest or Plains. It's any Forest or Plains when you cast a creature spell. So getting those dual lands, Karametra really helps us to fix the mana in this deck. Keranos, God of Storms, lets us draw the first card. We reveal the first card we draw on each of our turns. When we reveal a land card, we get to draw another card, which is great. When you reveal a non-land card, it deals 3 damage to any target, so we can bolt anything. Crewfix lets us bank up our mana whenever we need to, and we have no maximum hand size, which is great. Iroas, God of Victory. It gives all of our creatures menace. It also prevents all damage that would be dealt to our attacking creatures. So if we do for some reason amass a giant board state with tokens, we can just kind of cut in and not worry about it. Afara, God of the Polis. So at the beginning of each upkeep, if you had another creature enter the battlefield under your control last turn, draw a card. Xenagos, God of Revels. It's our haste mechanic and our big beef producer. This thing doubles any of our creatures and makes them that much stronger. Heliod, God of the Sun. Another way to make some tokens, which is really the main benefit from this one. The vigilance is also nice. Heliod's Sun Crown, so getting lifelink and adding 1/1 counters to our creatures is always a positive move. Athreos, God of Passage. When another creature you control dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. Athreos, Shroud Veiled. We can put the coin counters, and it's a god. We're playing all the gods in this, so we're going to have fun with it. A bunch of indestructible monsters just smashing in. Nelia, God of the Hunt. Other creatures you control have trample, and it lets us pump our creatures up. Nelia Keen-Eyed makes all of our creature spells cost 1 less to cast, so it kind of helps ramping us in a sense, especially since it's indestructible and hard to remove. Erebos Bleak-Hearted. Whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card, and you can sacrifice one of your creatures to give a creature -2/-1. Purphoros, God of the Forge, doing 2 damage to each opponent whenever a creature enters the battlefield, which is really rude. Purphoros Bronze-Blooded, giving all of our creatures haste. It's also a 7/6 indestructible for 5, and I can't stress that enough. The bigger benefit from the cards in this set is really their bodies and the fact that they're indestructible. We work hard in having the altar of the Pantheon, getting to the devotion pretty easily. Thassa, God of the Sea, getting to scry 1 every turn. This really helps us dig to the answers that we need. And then Thassa Deep Dwelling, of course, so we can tap down creatures and we can blink things that have strong ETB effects or things that we just want to blink by untapping them. All right, next up, we're going to share a little bit of the card draw that we get off of all of these gods. The first one is Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. A lot of the spells we're casting are legendary, which means they are historic, and we are drawing cards off of it, so another great way to just dig through the deck. Citizen Champion, shockingly, not shockingly, a ton of these are enchantments, so getting a 1/1 counter and drawing a card off Citizen Champion, it just helps us to get through that deck a little bit faster. And the Argothian Enchantress, similar to Citizen Champion, it's an Enchantress, it gives us the Enchantress effect. We're drawing cards off of all of those enchantments, so just a strong way to get through our deck. Next, we're going to talk about some of the removal we have in this deck. And the best part about playing, 5 colors, you get to dip into every which removal spell you enjoy. So the first one is Beast Within. Destroy target permanent. It lets us deal with any permanent, and they get a beast instead. Just a very efficient removal spell at instant speed. Assassin's Trophy, even more efficient than Beast Within. All you do is ramp somebody, and you can destroy any permanent that they have. Last one standing. I love this. Choose a creature at random. Hopefully it's one of your gods, and then destroy the rest. It's a 3-mana board wipe, and again, you're mostly indestructible, so this isn't too threatening to you. Swords to Plowshares, another efficient targeted removal spell that exiles any target creature. And we have the Arcane Denial, where we can counter a spell. I love that this counters any spell for colorless and a blue, which helps a lot when you're playing 5 colors. You're not always going to have the 2 blue to try to use a spell like this, but a colorless and a blue is a little bit more possible, and you do get to draw a card. We don't care about anybody else drawing a card, so that's just fine. That's okay. Next, we're going to talk about some of our utility creatures and planeswalkers. The first one, I just love Chandra, and this deck gave me an excuse to play it. She is really rude. She can't be countered, and those emblems are absolutely brutal. They just keep ticking up. The other thing that's really nice is she does 3 damage to each non-elemental creature, so there's going to be those circumstances where you have a token deck that just runs away with it with a bunch of 1/1 servos or 1/1, insects or whatever it is. She's a -3. Wiping that whole board is pretty devastating. Pramikon Sky Rampart. So this is a great way to control the board state as we're slowly kind of building up our gods and working towards our devotion. Pramikon can really help us dictate the wave of battle, which is what gods love to do. They choose who fights when and where, and Pramikon helps us to accomplish that. Nicol Bolas, because he tried to be a god, so I wanted to make sure that he was shown off in this one. So we got the Ravager. We've got the Dragon God, so once he ascended to godhood, I do love this Planeswalker too, especially since it can double down on any of the abilities. So if you have Chandra out there, if somebody else is a stronger Planeswalker out there, he really just eats up those abilities. And then we've got the God Pharaoh, so anything that's godly of Nicol Bolas is a part of this. Now, don't confuse it. Morophon, as we choose gods, reduces Wooburg in a god's color type. That's not going to work with the God Pharaoh, obviously. They're not literally gods. So let's go through the last few pieces of our package. Just some utility spells again. Enlightened Tutor to enchant or to get any artifact or enchantment. So this kind of doubles down for getting us the mana rock that we need or getting us the god that we need that's an enchantment. So just an efficient tutor for the deck. Idyllic Tutor, kind of the same thing, except it's just enchantments, but again, getting us one of the gods that we need, so a couple of efficient tutors for gods. Demonic Tutor, because it gets us anything we need, so whatever answer we need to find, the Demonic Tutor shall find. And Revel in the Riches is in here. Of course it's in here. When creatures die, we get treasures, and, it's that part of me that's just like, if we can really go off with Smothering Tithe, why not have a way to win? Revel in Riches does that for us. And the last one, since we have so many legendary spells, I thought I'd have, or legendary creatures, I thought it'd be worth having a nice legendary spell. So I've got Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Put one target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and destroy up to one target creature or planeswalker. So getting to be targeted removal, but also stealing whatever we please. The last part of this deck is really just the lands, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but you will see the breakdown of the lands in this deck. It's, this one's going to be pretty robust, and I would say just check out the link in the description below for the deck itself. It's got the full list there, and that is Morophon Gods, or at least my take on Morophon Gods. I do have a lot of fun with this deck. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. There's even more strategic ways to build the gods. This was built to just purely enjoy playing all the gods, doing and working with all of their abilities, and seeing how they can really benefit you in the long game. It's definitely a long game deck. You're looking to control the board state as best as you can with a bunch of indestructible things that help you out and have a lot of fun. Also, did you see this? Some new dice coming. We had some custom dice made. Stay tuned if you're a patron. More to come on that. Until next time, though, this is your commanding presence. This is Booster Therapy, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.